This is Wayla Shambo for WHRO-FM. The Virginia Arts Festival's 25th season kicks off next weekend with American Ballet Theater's production of Don Quixote. I spoke with the company's music director, Ormsby Wilkins, who's been with ABT since 2005 and will be conducting the Virginia Symphony in these performances. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is, some of our listeners may not know, what's involved with being the music director for a major ballet company? What do you do in that position?
So, I guess the major thing we do is prepare and conduct the orchestra for the performances. We have our own orchestra in New York, the American Ballet Theatre Orchestra, which we basically exclusively use in New York, mostly at the Metropolitan Opera House. And of course, I have a staff to look after. There are two other conductors on staff. We have 5 pianists who play for rehearsals. And, organizing for if we have tours, because ABT has always been a big touring company, so there are often a lot of organization of tours and being in touch with other orchestras that we might use on tour.
Yeah, that leads into my next question, actually. So you'll be conducting the Virginia Symphony for the performances here. Is that something you often do, work with local orchestras when the company's on tour?
Yes, we mostly do. We do not tour our orchestra. The costs have always been very prohibitive in that sense, in trying to take a 50 or 60-piece orchestra along with a company of 80 or 90 dancers. So we usually do use local orchestras. And I'm very glad to say, I've worked with the Virginia Symphony before, and they're excellent, and I'm looking forward to getting back to working with them.
Talking about conducting for ballet as opposed to conducting an orchestra on the concert stage. What do you find is different about those? What kinds of skills do you need to have as a ballet conductor?
Well, if you're just on the concert stage, you'll just really have the music to deal with, and your attention is with the music and the musicians. Of course, with ballet or dancing, I have to have another set of eyes somewhere on the dancing. Not all the time, but at the times that are important and know that they may need some help getting around a particular phrase, or that they need something a little slower, a little faster. And sometimes, however much you go into the rehearsal room, performance is a different thing altogether, and there are all sorts of just unknowns that will happen. So you have to have very good eyes, an extra pair of eyes, I think. It's not unlike accompanying for opera, but opera, the orchestra can hear the singers. So the collaboration is a sort of between the orchestra conductor and the singers. Of course, the orchestra can't basically see the dancers, so that it's all left to me to have to coordinate that. And that's, I think, the specialized nature of conducting for ballet.
Do you have any thoughts about the relationship between music and dance and how you look at that?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes the view is that the conductor is there and just watching what's going on stage and just follows what the dancers do. Well, that's not really what happens. What we're trying to do is create the best music possible, but also we're an accompanist to the dancers, so we have to be fully aware of what they're doing, and of course it all should be worked out in the studio, like anything, so that the unknowns that do crop up in performance are few and far between. You try to come to accommodations, to arrangements with the dancers and those who are coaching the dancers to what works best, what is the best solution, both musically and dance-wise. So that's what you're trying to bring all that together, and to try and make the music have integrity, but at the same time understanding how you can help the dancers get through many of the steps that they have. And, as I say, you have to be attuned to all the different dances because we one dancer, particularly if you're looking at principal roles, they can't do them every night. Mm-hmm. So you have several casts. I think we have 3 casts in Norfolk going on. So you have to know all that. But we really are trying, just like any other orchestral performance, to make the music as wonderful as possible. And we don't have, there are lots of moments where I don't have to look at the stage because it's mime, or I just know that the dancers just are getting on with it, and I can pay attention to the orchestra, because there's nothing worse if an orchestra thinks that you're just paying attention to the stage and not to them. Part of your job is actually to bring the orchestra into the performance. Because they can't see what's going on, you have to somehow, without actually dancing yourself on the podium, but you have to have that feeling that they're part of the whole show. Mm-hmm. And I think that will lead you to much better musical performances.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the effects of the pandemic on your work and your experience. I know it's been obviously very challenging for many artists. Has going through this experience over the past couple of years changed the way you look at performing or music or dance at all?
I would only just say that I've been doing this for quite a long time, and not that I was ever jaded by it, but all I can say is that when I came, it was amazing when we first went back to performing in the theater last fall. I had not realized how much it was important to me to perform and to conduct. Mm-hmm. It had become, my job, and I loved it, but when I lost it, I was, stuck in my apartment, and I didn't know. It was very peculiar feeling to have your profession taken away from you and for so long. And, I managed, I think psychologically I managed not too badly, but it was very difficult. But I can't tell you how extraordinary it was. It was like a whole new life again, going back to performing. It was like I had this new energy, I felt anyway, and realized how precious it is, So I think that certainly was very gratifying to me. That, oh my God, I really still love doing this at my great age.
Can you tell us a bit about Don Quixote, the ballet the company will be performing here?
So Don Quixote is a ballet that was written back in the mid-19th century for the Mariinsky Theater. The music is by Ludwig Minkus, who was a composer who wrote a lot of ballet music. And it's really very charming music, very tuneful. Minkus could write waltzes. He was a great composer of waltzes, and they all have different melodies. These are tinged with a sort of Spanish flavor. There are fandangos, there are seguidillas, and you can hear that in the structure of the rhythm. And he completely understood what the dancers needed to give them the lift, give them the inspiration to dance, give them the joy of dance. And I think that's what comes out of this music. It's lovely. It's very charming, so lots of comic moments. It is the most happy of ballets, and they'll see some really spectacular dancing. And Don Quixote is really a signature piece of American Ballet Theatre. American Ballet Theatre was built to do this sort of ballet to perfection. It may not be so familiar. I mean, we know what Don Quixote is, but we don't necessarily know that it is a ballet. And I just want to encourage people to come along, and if they want to have a good time, because they will. I guarantee it.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to welcoming you and ABT here in Norfolk.
Thank you. Very nice to talk to you, Wella.
Ormsby Wilkins is the music director for American Ballet Theatre and will be conducting the Virginia Symphony for ABT's upcoming performances of Don Quixote at the Virginia Arts Festival. The show runs March 25th through 27th at Chrysler Hall. Tickets and details are at vafest.org. For WHRO-FM, I'm Wayla Shambo.